What's up? Welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal, who, as we all know, are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. Now, look, I know I probably shouldn't have been, but I have actually been genuinely surprised by the reaction to yesterday's win for Manchester City at Anfield. Going into the game, there was a 9-point gap after Arsenal had very professionally and very well and played really well to put a decent Sunderland team to the sword, 3-0. And all of the talk, all of the buoyancy around that performance, I actually caught myself thinking, how am I going to celebrate the league? And then I remembered that it's not even the middle of February yet. And as much as we'd all like to see the title handed out now, it's not going to happen. I have to say, though, I did expect that City going into a match at Anfield where I think the only time Pep's won there was in the COVID season, and they've won something like 3 and lost 53. So, it is the toughest fixture they play every season. It always makes me laugh, this fixture, because people always say, you have to beat if you want to win the league, you have to beat your rivals at their place. And that's just not been true of the City-Liverpool type. When City have won 4 in a row, they haven't won there. But honestly, I was expecting that the lead between Arsenal and Manchester City would go to 8 points. That was my real thinking, 9 possibly. But what it seems like everyone's talking about today after that win, which was a great result for them, everyone's talking about how Man City have woken up. They haven't surrendered the title race. They're just 6 points behind. They're going to go on a 10-game tear. And Arsenal, of course, under a bit of pressure now, will naturally throw it away, as is always the case. And, I'm not asking you to have faith and I'm not asking you to believe, but I am saying I have a few problems with this narrative. And it's a narrative which, look, on the one hand, you can see where it's come from, because Manchester City's next 5 games are all against relatively weak opposition. No offence. But you do kind of look at it and think, I expect them to beat Fulham at home. I expect them to beat Newcastle at home. Both teams that lost their last game. Leeds away, tough game. But still, you fancy that on their day they'll win it, and then Forest at home, and then West Ham away. So in their next 5 games, it's hard to see anything but 15 points for Manchester City. That's halfway to that 10-game streak. But to be honest with you, just because I can't see them dropping points doesn't mean that they won't drop points. After all, I didn't see them dropping points really to Tottenham. I didn't think they'd lose to Manchester United. I didn't think they'd draw away to Sunderland, at home to Chelsea and Brighton. In the last 7 Premier League games they've played, they have won 2. And look, yesterday's result was really good, but come on. If you're just going on performance, surely I can't have been the only person who thought when Szoboszlai's goal went in that was pretty much a carbon copy of what happened to us, that Liverpool were going to win it. I was thrilled about it. I certainly didn't think in the 85th minute that we would see a Manchester City revival, because although they'd looked really good in the first half, coming out for the second half, they just weren't there. And that's something that's a recurring theme in Manchester City at the moment. Obviously, the game against Spurs, another great example. They don't seem to see games through. Erling Haaland isn't in great form. Now, I have to say his assist to Bernardo Silva, and Bernardo Silva is a title winner. He's scrappy, never gives up. But in most games, you wouldn't expect a keeper of the quality of Alisson to give away such a stupid penalty. And I'm not sure. I know that there's been conversations around we didn't get a similar penalty. But honestly, when we played Newcastle, honestly, I think it's a penalty. I just can't understand why Alisson would do that. And then, even though there's a fingertip save by Donnarumma, which was brilliant, you kind of just thought, okay, this is how it's going to be. They pick up the points, but the idea that this now means that they're rejuvenated, they haven't given up, and everything else that goes with it, for me, seems a little bit, well, I'll say it as it is, it's wishful thinking. The reality, of course, is that no one wants this to be a title race. It's a procession. No one wants to see Arsenal stroll to the title like Liverpool did last season. It's boring. If you're in the media, or if you're in, even if you have your own channel or anything like that, you want there to be twists and turns of constant excitement. And you want to believe that this is a 2-horse race where City are coming up on the rail and they're now going to fight it out neck and neck. But that may not be how this turns out for a couple of reasons. Now, on the one hand, I could be being really overly optimistic and saying that Arsenal, we're not just grinding out results. Yes, we lost to Manchester United, but so did Man City, just to be clear. And it was a really frustrating game because of our performance, not necessarily just because of the result. We lost at home for the first time this season to Manchester United. And then in our next Premier League game, we took on Leeds and away for that. And I think a lot of eyes were on us and we beat them comfortably 4-0. And then, as I said, on Saturday, we dispatched Sunderland 3-0. We played Brentford on Thursday. Man City will have played Fulham on Wednesday. I don't think anyone expects Fulham to go to the City ground. Beg pardon. I don't think anyone expects Fulham to go to the Etihad and do anything but lose. But the last game between City and Fulham was an absolute cracker. So I think that Fulham may have a go at them, which is when you start to see the cracks at City, because you can buy Mark Gahey in, but if he's playing alongside Kuzanov, it still doesn't look like a title-winning back four, does it? So I don't know, but by the time we play, we could be down to 3 points. And then, honestly, no one can say what's going to happen to this Arsenal team if they do come under pressure, whether they fold or not. But so far this season, we've lost 3 games, and on each occasion, we've bounced back pretty solidly and looked really good. So maybe this is just that kind of season where we do get a result against Brentford. We have got some awkward ties coming up. That's the reality of it. On the remaining fixtures, you'd expect us to get about 28, 29 points. Based on how we've played those same fixtures over the last 5 years. Man City, of course, have a slightly easier run in, so you'd expect them to get about 33 to 34, which is not quite enough. It means it probably goes to the final game of the season. It means that we're unlikely to be crowned champions, certainly not in February, probably not in March, and unlikely in April. But hopefully, by the time we play Burnley at home, around the 17th of May, we can do enough in that game to mean that the away game at Palace is a formality. But honestly, even if it isn't, Palace don't look that good right now. So I guess the thing that has occurred to me is that as much as people want to drive clicks by saying that, Man City, none of us know what's going to happen in the remaining season. These are not facts, they're just opinions. But I tell you what is an absolute fact, which is why I was actually surprised despite myself. The fact is, nobody's lost ground. The way it's being portrayed as Arsenal have lost ground to Manchester City in a title race. We started the weekend 6 points ahead. We finished the weekend 6 points ahead. They've not caught up with us. Our current form is better than theirs. So if you are projecting that Manchester City are going to turn around and we're going to collapse, I can't say you're wrong. But it's not really based on the numbers, is it? On the numbers, we are still tracking to win. And that, by the way, I still have us tracking to win the league on 90 points. And I have Manchester City to finish on 89. So it's that close. But that's with us losing at the Etihad and drawing against Spurs. So in our remaining fixtures, I've got 1 defeat and 1 draw. Manchester City, I think, will pretty much pick up full points. And even if they do, we still win as champions. Obviously, look, predicting the future is foolish anyway, because you're never going to get it 100% right. Who knows? And like I've already said, I didn't predict Man City drawing 3 games in a row. And I certainly didn't see them losing to Bodo Glimt. There's the League Cup final in between. Who knows what kind of effect that would have? On the one hand, you think if Arsenal can win that game, maybe it will knock the confidence out of City, or maybe it will drive them on. Maybe if we lose, it will drive us on. Nobody knows. But what I'm sure of is that we all, as a fan base, Arsenal fan base, have to stop. We have to stop with these mood swings. Everyone's ebullient on the Saturday talking about popping champagne, and on the Sunday evening it's all like, oh, it's happening again, it's happening again. No. We have to stop having more mood swings than a pregnant teenager. We have to We have to be ready for this. 13 games to go. Much can happen. But I think it's fair to look at the previous 25 and draw some conclusions. And the conclusions you draw from the previous 25 is that, yeah, Arsenal might be destroying football because we're too boring to watch. Yes, we might score too many goals from set pieces. Perhaps, our front three aren't going to get into the team of the season. On that, though, I just want to also say we have scored 2 goals fewer than this imperious, wonderful, free-flowing, attacking football played by Manchester City. I think we're getting lost in narratives a little bit. I want to hear from you, though. Are you less confident? Can you explain why? Let's have a rational conversation about it. Tomorrow night at 10:30, of course, we have the Tuesday Club. And I look forward to... I think everyone will have calmed down a little bit. And there's Premier League games as well. So, look, I'm still confident as you can be when you're expecting to win the league by 1 point, right? So I do want to hear from you. Get in touch if you haven't and you've watched all the way through. Click the like, and if you haven't yet subscribed, you know the drill. Perhaps use the hype. Just saying, it's there for a reason. But until I see you tomorrow night, 10:30, Tuesday Club. Be lucky. Lots of love.